somebody with him. Hey everybody, happy Friday and welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Sinead DeVries, and this is the daily show where we bring you the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Joining us this morning is Perri Nemiroff.
Hello and welcome to Friday Movie Talk. It is a really good day today. One, because Cody's got all of our backs, and two, because we have a really awesome lineup for you today. We have Star Wars, a short competition that I'm really excited about. Oh my God, I want to get into it. But first, who's joining me today, Sinead?
Also here today is David Griffin.
Wow. Look at that. Announced first.
Look at that.
Not used to that. Usually I'm last. Hey, Christian. How you doing? Christian's behind the camera there. Happy to be here, everybody.
Also here is John Rocha.
I like that Sinead face. That's my favorite Sinead face. Hey, everybody. I'm looking forward to today. We got a lot to talk about. We might have a special guest jumping in. I'm not sure. Or he's jumping in now, I suppose. Get your hands off my wallet. All right, there we go.
Also here is Ken Napzok. Sorry.
It's okay. Christian's grabbing my ass right now, and it feels kind of good.
All right. I'm going to try to steer this in a proper direction before we get more of that on the show. We have some breaking news right off the top today, and that news is something that we probably all saw coming. Deadline is reporting right now that Patty Jenkins is finally in final negotiations to direct Wonder Woman 2. It is about time. Ever since Wonder Woman came out and it was a hit with fans, critics, and at the box office, I mean, really, who didn't think that they would want to bring her back for a second go-around? But apparently, based on the Deadline report, Patty Jenkins was playing it pretty smart, and the reason it took so long is because she was actually taking her time. She was negotiating so that she could get the payday she deserves for, one, delivering a fantastic first film, and two, the money she should get to jump in and make another one. So I am really happy that this whole thing is finally coming to a conclusion, and we can actually just get excited about getting another Jenkins-directed Wonder Woman film. What do you think about it, Ken?
I think this is great. Every time I'm on Movie Talk and Patty Jenkins' name comes up, I try to directly address to the camera and give her negotiation advice. Patty, you did it. This is well-deserved. This has been too long between feature films, and you did great work on Arrested Development. Congratulations. You negotiated like a boss. We don't know the full details yet. It looks like she'll be the highest-paid female director ever. Hopefully, that puts her one of the highest-paid directors ever. This is, I'm sure, a great deal. And you know, now let's get more. Patty Jenkins, Ava DuVernay are not the only big female directors out there, and potentially Catherine Bigelow, of course, others. If you're a 13-year-old girl out there, know that this is your path. You want to grab a camera and tell a story, this is still possible. Do it. Look at Patty Jenkins, look at Ava DuVernay, but let's get more in there. This is the start. This is great. Warner Brothers looked at this and said, no-brainer, because we won big with this.
Safe to assume you're going to continue the Jenkins support, Rocha?
Absolutely. I mean, she brought it to life in a way against a lot of odds, you know, because of what had happened, the uneven reception of Suicide Squad, Batman vs. Superman, even Man of Steel. So she kind of like turned the DCEU ship around. So she should be compensated handsomely for what she's done. Gal Gadot is now like being spoken about in the same breath with Linda Carter as Wonder Woman because of the work she was able to do with that film. And so for me, I think this only makes the most sense and it shows other directors that if you come in and knock it out of the park, DC and Warner Brothers are willing to work with you and compensate you for the work you do and for helping them build and uplift their brand. And so all around, it's just a smart move, and she's a great choice, and Ken is right. Unfortunately, it took her this long to get this payday, but sometimes, yeah, 13-year-old pick it up, but also those people who are struggling and suffering, and they're like going those years like, I don't know, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Here's an example for you to look at. She toiled in TV, she directed, she honed her skills even more. She was already a fantastic director of a monster. Now getting this chance, she knocked it out of the park when she had a chance to step up to the plate. And so everything comes to those who wait sometimes. And unfortunately, because of the system, she had to wait a little bit longer than she should have, but she got her payday and she deserves it.
David, did you ever think it was a possibility that Warner Brothers wouldn't give Patty Jenkins what she was asking for?
No, because I mean, I always equate any kind of business, especially like the movie business, to like sports. If you're a bankable star, a bankable athlete, if you're a Denzel, if you're Angelina Jolie, if you're some big superstar, you should get paid accordingly. I mean, Neymar Jr. just signed one of the biggest contracts in sports history at $450 million over 5 years. It's like because he he's proven to be one of the best players in the world. Patty Jenkins now is one of the best upcoming directors in the world right now. Her movie's making hundreds of millions of dollars. She should be paid accordingly. So I'm glad Warner Brothers is doing what they should do. Doing right by her.
Hopefully in the very near future, we're going to be covering this again when the deal is closed and she's officially locked. On top of that, it's looking like Wonder Woman could cross the $800 million mark at the box office this weekend. So that is huge. A lot of Wonder Woman celebrating happening right now. But we're going to move on over to our first main story of the day. Sinead, what is it?
According to a report from THR, the long-rumored standalone Obi-Wan movie has finally come to fruition. The trade announced yesterday that Oscar-nominated filmmaker Stephen Daldry is in early talks to helm the movie, with sources for the trade saying the talks are only in the very early stages, so early in fact that they don't even have a script. If the deal goes through, Daldry would oversee the development and writing with Lucasfilm. Also in the report was the casual mention that Lucasfilm was also looking at a Yoda and Boba Fett movie, though no more details were given. As for the Obi-Wan movie, no release date has been set, nor is there a confirmation that Ewan McGregor will be reprising his role. Christian, what are your thoughts on Stephen Daldry directing the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie and on the potential standalone movies?
Well, this is the worst Wendy's ever looked, I can tell you that. Look at me. No, I will talk to you about, the first was Daldry. And I just got a tweet 5 seconds ago about, well, I'm not really excited about an Obi-Wan movie. Why should I? They're just making the universe smaller. I could not disagree more. There is so much to be explored with the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I know not everybody reads the comic books or the books, but what he was going through and the turmoil that he was in, he wasn't just stranded on that desert. Or at least we shouldn't just assume that he was just stranded on Tatooine. There are other things that he can do. But as far as Daldry and what he could do, if you look at whether it's The Reader or if you look at Billy Elliot or The Hours, these movies that he has done, there is a lot of character work. There's a lot of emotional character work and great storytelling that he has been a part of. He's got like 8 to 10 films under his belt, and he's done some really good stuff. And I think if you put that with Obi-Wan, and Ewan McGregor has to come back. I mean, he's got to come back. That's the whole point of it. I think that he's been in talks with Lucasfilm for a very long time, and he even came in to do the stuff with J.J. Abrams. It's something that will work wonders if they do it. And I gave my reasons why I think that Vader should be the villain. You can watch Jedi Council. I know some people don't agree with that, but I think that it just makes a lot of sense if you kind of go through some of the stuff that's been said in the past movies. But as far as Yoda and Boba Fett, I don't think that report is necessarily true. I shouldn't say that. I think that they are going to be working on a lot of different ideas, and I'm sure that those were pitched. I don't think those are coming out anytime soon. If Boba Fett does, he'll be working with other bounty hunters. It's not going to be a full-on standalone. That was the one they were supposed to be working with Josh Trank, but that didn't happen. Yoda, I think it's too tricky. I think that it's really hard to do a full Yoda movie, and that's one I just don't necessarily. I think keep the mystery with Yoda when he pops in and stuff too, and whether or not we see him in the new trilogy, it's still we'll figure that out. But I think there are other movies that they will explore, that they can explore, and I don't think Yoda and Boba Fett's something to do. But Obi-Wan is a movie. I think that once people start to see the way that this thing ships up and how they pair together what he's going to do, I think a lot of people are going to be, even the ones who aren't excited right now, will be.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you on the Boba Fett and Yoda point. I obviously don't think it was just a flat-out lie in that article, but there's a big difference between having something in active development and saying that you're just tossing around ideas. It makes sense for them to be tossing around that Boba Fett bounty hunter idea when clearly it was already in discussions earlier on. And the same thing goes with Yoda. He's one of the biggest characters in the entire franchise. It makes sense for them to consider it, but between the two, the one that I don't want to see is the Yoda movie. I think half the reason that character is so powerful and so effective within the trilogy and within the prequels as well is because of his mystery. That's what makes him powerful. The second you start to tell me, what species he is, where he's from, what he's really capable of, down to like every nitty-gritty detail, it kind of ruins the effect of the character, and I don't really want to know that information, and I've never felt the need. Normally, I'm a very detail-oriented person. I like everything to be laid out really logically, and normally my mind goes to wanting backstory for characters that I like, and for whatever reason, that's never happened to me with Yoda, and in my own brain, at least, that is a sign that we don't need to tell that story. I think Boba Fett and bounty hunters, though, are completely different, and the same thing goes for Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, really, when this news dropped, it was one of the biggest duh stories. We knew it was coming. There was so much talk about it. And the fact that Ewan McGregor was, voicing his opinion about how he's into that idea, everything was kind of aligning. We knew it was going to happen. The thing that really caught me off guard, though, was Stephen Daldry. And it's not that I don't think he's good for the job. And we're talking about a 3-time Academy Award nominee, someone who just got an Emmy nomination. He is clearly a very, very talented individual. It's just, when we look back at Gareth Edwards, Rian Johnson, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, those are flashy names. Stephen Daldry is not a flashy name in that same way where it's going to get people excited, but I don't want to call him a safe choice because that doesn't feel fair either, but I mean, really, he is kind of a safe choice, especially after what went down on the Han Solo movie. I'm not really surprised that they went with someone who has so much experience telling really personal, emotional stories, which sounds like the right approach to an Obi-Wan movie. So I think this might be the smart move. Ken, do you agree?
It is a safe choice. It's a professional, safe choice, which is good. You've seen what they've dealt with. The flashy directors, Johnson's paying off. We'll see with Trevorrow. But you cannot deny they've had some issues. Who's right, who's wrong, we don't know. We're not in those sessions. We're not on those sets. But this isn't surprising in terms of a guy who's got a pedigree, who's handled character stuff. And I think it's a good choice. Could they have done 10 other choices? You'll get maybe some flashier choices later after things settle down. As far as some of the other stuff in the report, it's a great report. Good work here. You're right. I've been waiting for the Obi-Wan in the desert movie for a while, but I think Christian's right. I don't think this necessarily has to be contained to a desert. Small town. There's a script, I'm sure. So as far as the other ones, I'm sure they're considering everything. I'm sure they're considering a Yaddle movie. I'm sure they're considering everything. I'm sure there's a big wall. Where what can we do? So Boba Fett, we know Trank had a Boba Fett movie that a teaser was going to be at Star Wars Celebration 2015. I think it could be a bounty hunter, Cad Bane, Aura Singh. There's a Embo. There's a lot of other bounty. Dengar. You could put those guys in this kind of Boba Fett theme movie. We don't need a Boba Fett movie, so to speak. Yoda, you're right. We don't need that necessarily. And as far as people saying the story's small, I understand that critique of the Star Wars universe. We want Old Republic. We want something new. But unlike, say, Rogue One, which some people might felt wasn't an important story, I thought it was. But this isn't like how we're stealing the plans to the second Death Star. This is perhaps one of the most important characters who has one of the most important beliefs about Luke being the chosen one. So if you're in story, you're in that Star Wars nerd bubble like I am, adult R2 sippy cup here, Obi-Wan and that time period is very important to the story. This will be a great Star Wars story.
David, I am going to hand you your TV Talk plug right now and ask you if you've seen The Crown and what you think of Daldry as a director.
The Crown? Oh, I can talk about The Crown? Oh,
well,
man. That show is that's one of my favorite
shows.
An
Emmy for
it's coming back in December. It's Netflix's most expensive show they've ever done. Huge budget. It's gorgeous. It's a beautiful show. You should all be watching The Crown.
I don't know if anyone knows, but David's an Anglophile.
I'm kind of a fan of things that are British, but
Drink.
No, I think the director is a good choice. I kind of like people who come from maybe like, oh, we don't see him coming. We're not sure what he could do in the realm of Star Wars. It'd be interesting to see what he's going to do with that palette. But I want to talk about Yoda. I think there's a few ways you could do a Yoda movie. You don't have to do an origin story. There was a beautiful story. I don't know. I can't remember if Christian enjoyed it or not, but it was on the Lost episode, season 6 of Clone Wars, which is like a 3-episode run of Yoda battling his inner demons. And whoever knew that Yoda had demons, and they could do a story like that without showing Yoda as a baby. We don't have to see Yoda as a baby. I mean, that'd be cute because Yoda's cute even as a 900-year-old man. But I mean, we don't need to see that. Also, too, with the Obi-Wan film, I think that's a fantastic idea as well because if you read the Star Wars comic books, the Marvel Star Wars comic books, every now and then they'll do an issue where it's like Luke has Obi-Wan's journal and he reads from that journal and you get a little inside look about what Obi-Wan was doing while he was watching over Luke, watching Luke grow up on Tatooine. So there's a lot of avenues they could go down. But I don't think a Yoda movie is necessarily a bad idea. But I agree with you, Perri. I don't want to see him as a baby, but we could do it. He's 900 years old. He's done a lot. We could see him as a teenager. Maybe going through puberty, something like that. I'd be down to see something like that.
You say Baby Yoda, and all I see is the dollar signs going up for toy sales.
Oh, right.
Rocha, Yoda movie.
Yeah,
yay, nay.
You guys brought a lot of interesting points up and, took a lot of the points that I was going to say, too. So I don't know how much more I can add to this other than to say I'm extremely excited about this. And this is something that I said 2 years ago, I think, on Christian and Mark's show when they were doing the Star Wars show, I came on and did a pitch for a Obi-Wan movie with Ewan McGregor, a trilogy, because he was the best part of the prequels. So it logically makes sense to do this. And there's a lot of similarities to him and the Christ story, that idea of Jesus disappearing after he was a teenager to when he reappears as this prophet. What happened during those lost years? It's very much a huge mystery in the world of Christianity, and it mirrors what you see here with Kenobi, this time in the desert, this lost time in the desert. And David brings up great points with this idea of the journals of Ben Kenobi, which the Star Wars comic book got into and saw. There's all these stories about him fighting the Tusken Raiders and saving Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and so there's so much to explore with Kenobi, and we could see him go off-world. It doesn't have to stay in Tatooine. There's so much to play with. So to me, I think this is the right character to go, and it should, in my opinion, it should be a trilogy film where we see him going all the way up to New Hope, where we see him looking over young Luke in the third movie. That's my opinion. It should be built up so we see him coming into his power. Because look, he's lost Luke. He doesn't have a Qui-Gon Jinn anymore. What happened? What made him go into Tatooine? Why is he there for so long? What romances show up? With all these things that could pop up. So there's a lot to play with the Kenobi story. I agree with the Yoda. I don't want to see a Yoda movie. I'm cool. I like Yoda being the mysterious character he is. And I think the Suicide Squad approach to Boba Fett movie would be awesome. A Suicide Squad where because we've all grown to love these bounty hunters. So I would love to see us enjoying them on a mission where we can cheer for them and you see their skills not put to use against good people, but against more evil. And so that would be a lot of fun because they're bounty hunters. You can pay them to do whatever they want. They don't pick sides. So I think that would be an awesome way to go.
All right, so that's what we think about this topic, but what do you guys think? Sound off in the comments below. Are you excited about how this Obi-Wan movie is coming together so far? Do you want a Yoda movie? Do you want a Boba Fett movie? Tell us about it, and we will check out those comments later. Right now, we're moving on to our second main story of the day. Sinead, what is it?
According to THR, early tracking reports have come in for the movie It, and for Stephen King fans hoping for a successful debut, prepare to get happy. The trade reports that the Warner Brothers and New Line horror film could clear as much as $50 million or more on its first weekend in release, scoring the biggest September debut of all time. Insiders for Warner's, however, are being more cautious, saying that it could land in the $40 million to $45 million range, noting that a sluggish marketplace and the fact that September has never been known for huge openings could be a factor. It is directed by Andres Muschietti and follows 7 children who are terrorized by a being called Pennywise the Clown, and it's set to hit theaters on September 8th. Ken, what are your thoughts on its potential opening weekend, and could it open bigger than 50 mil?
I think so, because a lot of people love scary clown movies, other than me and Wendy Lee. Get them scary clowns out here. But yeah, a lot of people are talking about it. When you look at September, what's coming out, it's not just around this office. Stephen King's It's one of his more well-known and popular things, and this isn't the first time we've seen it adapted, but in this kind of way, this kind of modern filmmaking that we have now, where things are adapted very well at times. So I think the buzz going in, the trailers have hit. I think they've found a perfect time to release it. I know Mark Riley's going, probably dressed as a clown.
Yeah, if I was playing the over-under game with 50 million, I think at this point I would go over 50. I have been using The Conjuring as an example. I kind of touched on this yesterday because this came up in Twitter questions, but I've been using The Conjuring, which opened with $40 million because that was one of the biggest horror openings we've had in a really long time, where it wasn't just genre fans going to see the movie, it was the general viewing audience that wanted to see it. And that's what I think is going to happen here. And it might happen to an even bigger extent because Stephen King, because of the Stranger Things vibe right now. And it's not just about Finn Wolfhard being in the movie. That movie just gives you that same vibe. Like, you want to hang out with those kids. And wow, did they land the perfect release date when you look at it. So 2 weekends before it even comes out, there is next to nothing. So on the 25th of August, I'd say the biggest thing is Birth of the Dragon and Leap. And then the week after that, it's Tulip Fever. And then the only things that it is going up against is 9/11 and Home Again. Really, I don't think you could have paved the way to that release even better. And as we all know, horror movies do tend to have a really drastic weekend 1 to 2 dip. That might not happen with it, because what comes out after that is We do have Mother, which I'm really looking forward to, but American Assassin also. And I don't really think those are going to be big money makers. So I think that it might have a huge, huge opening, and then it might have legs to go with it. So I am really looking forward to it making a ton of money. I'm also really looking forward to Christian Harloff leaving the studio because he is very distracting. David, how do you feel about it? Are you going to go see it?
I'm going to go see it because I'm reading the book right now. So it's fascinating. It's horrifying. I mean, it's like it takes place in the 50s and then in the 80s, but it seems like what they're going to do is they're going to split it up into 2 movies is the goal. So it's going to get the kids side of everything. But the book, it jumps back and forth. But it's fantastic. I love it. I love the story so far. It's freaky. I read it right before I go to bed, which is not a good idea because I have nightmares. I'm very sensitive. But I love it. I can't wait to see this. Also, I think it could definitely do north of $50 million. I think it could do $60 million because the hype is real. Stephen King, I mean, he's always been a hot guy, like an in guy, but right now, I mean, he has so many properties out. I mean, you have Dark Tower's out, you have The Mist on Spike Television, you have Mr. Mercedes on Audience, and you have
so
It.
good.
Mr. Mercedes is excellent. Watch Mr. Mercedes on Audience, which is part of DirecTV. So I'm happy that all these Stephen King properties are coming out. I'm happy that Mr. Mercedes is doing well, and I'm happy that we're hearing very good buzz about It right now. So definitely, I'm going to go push for north of $50 million.
All right, Rocha. So do you think it is going to hit it big, and how do you think it might affect this potential sequel?
Yeah, I think it absolutely will. North of 50 million, I think, is a valid thing. I don't know about 60. 60 is a lot for a horror movie, so I'd be really surprised if it hit 60. But I think this is an interesting thing to take a look at from another perspective, and that is this is a way of so much is going on in our world and in our country. There's a lot of horrors that we can't control, horrors that we see happening and things of that nature. But what this film does, it gives us a chance to choose to go get lost and choose our horror and choose a way to get scared, have some measure of control from the lunacy we see going on every day. And so this is a way to kind of disappear and have our own choice to get scared our own way and enjoy great filmmaking, what looks like great filmmaking, and what looks like bringing to life one of the best Stephen King novels ever written. And that's the thing, that Stephen King's adaptations have been so uneven. Even that the TV series that Mist was terrible. And so it was supposed to launch.
The movie was good.
Yeah, the movie was good, right. It's supposed to launch this universe, right? The Stephen King universe they were talking about launching on TV. So you see all this happening, and Stephen King deserves better. His books, for most of us, his books have decorated our teenage years with interesting, scary moments that have, forced us to be like, keep reading and also read under the covers and hide like crazy. And it was one of those. It is one of those that really just gets right inside you and scares you from the inside out. And so to see the way that they're doing this, I think this makes sense. I think it's I think people want to go escape into this level of horror and have a good time with it. So I have no doubts. My only fears is it going to have legs? That's the thing. Is it going to blow up and then have legs? Are people going to go like, now I want to keep going, see it over and over again? That's the key, I think, to this.
All right, let's move on to buy or sell, the portion of the show when we get to talk about stuff and say whether we buy or sell it. Sinead, what's first on the lineup?
24 has released the first trailer for The Killing of a Sacred Deer. The Yorgos Lanthimos film stars Colin Farrell as a top cardiologist who has a twisted relationship with a young man played by Barry Keoghan that threatens his family and his career. The film also stars Nicole Kidman, Raffi Cassidy, Sonny Soljic, Bill Camp, and Alicia Silverstone. The Killing of a Sacred Deer opens in theaters this October 27th. Rocha, do you buy or sell the first trailer for The Killing of a Sacred Deer?
Oh yeah, I absolutely buy this trailer. It's got what's her name? Ellie Goulding's song that she's singing in a very creepy way. I don't know what they've done with these films. They've done a great job having people cover these pop songs and have them be really creepy. You're like, I didn't know this could have this kind of vibe to it. So go through it. And I love the images. I love the Colin Farrell with the beard. That's such a great image. Nicole Kidman really coming back more. Her renaissance is so fantastic. She was always a good actress. Sometimes the material she chose wasn't the best. And to see her kind of doing these smaller films like she did with Lion, I'm super excited to see what she can do. And I absolutely loved The Lobster. Lobster was so damn good and really pushed the boundaries of what you can do with a pseudo horror film that explores the inner workings of a human being and what attraction is all about, what romance is all about in a future society where they're controlling how long you can be in love, how long you cannot be in love, and if you're single, you die and become some kind of other animal. It's so intense. So Yorgos Lanthimos is the director, and I think the images from this trailer just make me want to see it all the more. And it's only 1 minute and 20 seconds, and I'm already in. I'm already like, how much is it going to cost? I'm going to go see this movie. So I'm super excited about it, and I like when Colin does these smaller films. I think it really takes advantage of his talents as an actor.
Yeah, I definitely buy this. One, because I love The Lobster. Well, I liked half The Lobster.
Oh.
The Lobster's like kind of a two-part movie. You got some
Just the
parts
claws?
I like the hotel stuff. The hotel's very interesting. Once I get outside the hotel, then I was like, yeah, that's all right.
What?
But it's very inventive, and Colin Farrell is fantastic. Colin Farrell is a guy who's had a renaissance lately.
Yeah, true.
Another talented actor. Even in True Detective Season 2, which got just destroyed by the critics. I thought Colin Farrell was my favorite part of True Detective Season 2. He's a great actor, so I'm glad that he's having his own renaissance. Also, too, I want to talk about this kid, Barry Keoghan.
I think you pronounce his name Keoghan.
Keoghan?
No, I think it's Kogan.
Kogan?
Kogan?
I had
think
looked it up
is.
somewhere and I heard
Okay.
someone else. So clearly that's not
Well,
what
when
you
I
should do
first
is
saw
listen
it,
to one other
I think it's
person and
Kofan.
repeat what they say.
It's Kofan.
All right, well,
Well,
all right.
that's that
This
film.
isn't a
there's
linguistics class. Let's move on, people. Let's go.
I think it's
I'm sure
Barry.
All right, I'm talking Bari. All right, so Bari is a good actor. When I saw his face in the trailer, I'm like, oh, that's George from Dunkirk. Poor
Yeah.
George. George, he was really good in Dunkirk. I mean, he kind of played this innocent kid going in the midst of this big World War II battle. But I thought he was very good in that, so I'm excited to see him in another film. So yeah, I'm definitely going to see this.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of The Lobster too, the whole movie though. But I have been looking forward to this ever since I heard about that and since
Yeah.
I saw that. And I think this one had a festival premiere because I had been keeping it on my radar since that happened, and I had read a little bit about it. And I would advise people to maybe steer clear of reading any articles, reviews, anything you find, because clearly, if you watch this trailer, a big part of this movie is the mystery of it, and the mystery of, who's doing bad things, who's doing good things, what's happening to specific characters. And I will say that some of the articles I've come across, and I'm talking about months ago, nothing that I read to prep for this edition of Movie Talk, things that I read months ago that stuck in my head that have affected how I look at this trailer. But that aside, it's a very effective 90-second trailer that it starts to plant seeds in really interesting ways that doesn't necessarily spell out exactly what's going to happen, but it teases it really effectively. So I would say don't read anything about this movie, but you can watch a trailer like this because it's done really well here. Ken, did you like it?
You prep for movie talk?
One of the few.
I buy this trailer. I love The Lobster. Let me defend David Griffin a little bit here. It is a two-part movie, The Lobster. There's a tonal shift. I happen to like both, but I 100%. I remember halfway through going, "Oh, we're going this direction."
Yeah,
all right. And I'm going to be John. I don't know what animal you're going to be. I'm going to be a ferret when I die.
Wow.
Alone in a hotel.
Be a lion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to be, as long as I
lion.
wasn't in captivity, I would like to be a killer whale. You know, killer whales live up to almost 80 years.
This is what David stays up at night dreaming about, is being a whale. I like Colin Farrell a lot. I think he's one of those pretty boys who got underrated with his acting skills. True Detective Season 2, excellent example. Maybe the show didn't hit you, but he hit very well there. His beard is great. I'm going to start a show called Collider Facial Hair Talk, and David and I are going to talk about men's
I hate you
beards.
both.
Yeah.
I can't grow anything.
Well, you showed us that high school picture.
I
You got a
saw,
little
Yeah,
stash
I saw
going
your
there.
mustache in 1964.
That's why I don't grow it, because that's what it looks. It's fully grown. That's a fully
what
grown
year was
mustache.
that? 64, Rocha?
Yeah,
that you had
64.
that mustache?
Sepia toned. Yeah, it
It's
was
still
black and
coming
white.
in.
I had it
Anyway,
colored in like Ted Turner.
I'm sidetracked from the conversation. I buy the trailer. I like what's going on here. It's interesting, and that's sometimes all you need. A minute 20 gets you the taste of the movie you buy.
And it's the critics' reviews they put on the trailer really sell it. This idea that it's a vengeance story, like a revenge story, gets me like, "Ugh." I love revenge stories, and that seemed to Nicole Kidman and Colin Farrell outside the hospital when he's by the brick wall. That's the movie.
I didn't even think about it.
That's
yeah,
the movie.
We have Colin Farrell and Nicole Kidman in The Beguile too. I forgot that
Yes.
they were just
Yeah.
together.
Right.
Just that's
That's
it's a
the
good
movie.
combination.
That scene.
All right, so keep an eye out for this one. Right now, we're going to move on to our next buy or sell. Sinead, what we got?
DHR is reporting that breakout star from Girls Trip, Tiffany Haddish, has joined the cast of Universal's comedy Night School starring Kevin Hart. The movie will follow a group of misfits who are forced to attend adult classes in the long shot chance they'll pass the GED exam. Haddish will reunite with Universal and her Girls Trip director, Malcolm D. Lee, on a script that is based on a story by Kevin Hart and is written by Hart, Harry Ratchford, Joey Wells, and Matt Kellard, with additional script work by Nick Stoller. The movie is set for release on September 28th, 2018. David, do you buy or sell Tiffany Haddish and Kevin Hart in Night School?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll buy this. I'm happy for Tiffany Haddish. Excuse me. I'm so happy that Girls Trip did so well. I think when that first came out, we were all looking at that like, another girls' adventure night, drinking and carrying on, all that kind of stuff. We've seen it before. We see it with the dudes, too. Those movies is kind of, like The Hangover. It's like, okay, let's see what this is. But it happened to be very good. entertaining movie. So I'm happy that she's getting more work. Also, I buy anything that Kevin Hart's in because he's just a funny guy. I can't help but laugh. Of course, part of Complex here, they do the sneaker shopping show, and Kevin Hart's sneaker shopping episode's hilarious. He's just a very funny guy, whether he's scripted or unscripted. He's just great to watch. So I'm happy that Tiffany Haddish is getting work. So I'll definitely buy this. I'll go see this.
Yeah, I'll take just about anything she's cast in now, and I'm happy that Girls Trip is resulting in her getting more roles because she's really good in Girls Trip. It's one of those roles where maybe on paper it was one thing, but you could so see every single moment she's on screen that she is taking it to another level. And part of the reason that her jokes work so well is because of her delivery. So had they cast any other actress in that role, I don't think it would be the same. So no matter what this script or this story winds up being, I know that whatever part she has, she's going to take it to another level. So super happy for her on this. Have you guys seen Girls Trip? Have you seen Girls Trip?
I have not seen Girls Trip, but not yet. But I'm going to go because Tiffany Haddish won me over in Keanu. When she played High C in Keanu,
so good in
she's
Keanu.
fantastic. I actually fell asleep to an hour of it last night, and I love that movie. I enjoy that movie very much. It was on one of the pay channels, and she's great. She's so good. She's so good as a gangster, and then turns into this sweet person near the end. And you're like, this is an actress. This that can play that kind of range in a stereotypical part in a comedy, making fun of those stereotypical parts as part of the comedy. So, to me, I'm nothing but excited for this. I thought it was a remake of the 1981 horror film, that the night school where they're decapitating the co-eds, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Kevin Hart's going to do a horror, and then it wasn't that. So, but Kevin Hart is one of the hardest working men in show business, and he earns everything he gets, and I have nothing but respect for that guy. And so this is a good combination because Kevin is coming off of Jumanji. He's building his credibility more and more and more with all these bigger and bigger films. So why not go back to a little smaller comedy? Enjoy yourself with Tiffany Haddish, and Malcolm D. Lee obviously did a great job with Girls, because everyone seems to love this thing, and I can't wait to see it. So it's a great combination of factors involved in this, and it's probably going to be incredibly hilarious.
You looking forward to this one, Ken?
I'm looking forward to funny comedies that start small, like David said. No, everyone thought, what'd you call it? Carrying on. And then it builds and builds and builds, and word of mouth starts taking over, and then careers start getting made. I've talked about this before, Movie Talk. This is Tiffany Haddish, career made. You're on that next level. Remember when Kevin Hart was that funny guy from 40-Year-Old Virgin, or Knocked Up, I should say. Was it? No, 40-Year-Old Virgin. I miss all my Apatow universes are colliding. Where he was having that funny scene with Romeo Malco, and it's like, next thing you know, Kevin Hart, boom, he's up there. Now Haddish is up there. Malcolm D. Lee has this Girls Trip is setting records. First 100 million comedy of 2017. First 100 million comedy directed, produced, starred, written by black people. That is setting records, and this is what they're moving up to the big leagues. And Kevin Hart, I love that he is bringing along people with him too. This is going to be a winning thing, and this is great stuff.
Speaking of careers potentially being made, we have another great story on the buy or sell list today. Sinead, tell us about that one.
Thanks to a heads up posted by ScreenRant.com, the short film known as The Nurse has won the Conjuring Universe Short Film Contest. The competition was announced last month by Annabelle creation director David F. Sandberg and asked for aspiring filmmakers to craft their own short in the style of James Wan's Conjuring franchise. Each short had to be no longer than 2 minutes in duration and had to look and feel like it could exist within the established Conjuring world. Directed by filmmaker Julian Terry, The Nurse focuses on a little girl who is unable to see due to bandages being wrapped around her face, making it impossible for her to see the nurse, the demon at the center of the short film. The prize for the contest is a personal meeting with both a New Line executive and director Sandberg himself, with all travel expenses paid in full. You can currently see the winning short online right now. So Perri, do you buy or sell the Conjuring short, The Nurse?
I buy it. I'm not going to go crazy and say this is the greatest short I've ever seen, but for what Warner Brothers and what David F. Sandberg put out there, that short accomplishes it. It feels like it's something that's set in the Conjuring universe, and it also reminds me a lot about David F. Sandberg's short, Lights Out. It's got that same feel, the same type of scare. I think it's really well shot. The visuals are great. So I congratulate the filmmaker on that, and I know there's a little bit of controversy around this competition because some folks read the fine print, and apparently there's some sort of arrangement where Warner Brothers will pay the winner $50 and they will retain the rights to adapt this short. And then if they do, the winner gets another $50. So I just know that there's been a little argument, a little upset fans out there, because it's a steal, clearly. It's not fair to do something like that. David F. Sandberg has recently come out on Twitter and said that he will not stand for something like that, and this filmmaker needs to be treated fairly. And the filmmaker himself, I hate that I'm not using his name, Julian Terry, he actually wrote on Twitter back to someone who wrote to him. I think I saw a couple comments on the video, too, that said something along the lines of, oh, well, enjoy your $50. And he replied to one of those comments saying, he's like, well, I'm pretty happy right now. I got a call from 3 managers this morning. So clearly good things are coming. I'm really just excited about this whole contest existing, period, because clearly it was an important thing for Sandberg's career, for Lights Out to be a short film that existed, to be available on the internet. People found him, and look at the great films he's made and all the opportunities he's had. So I'm just really happy that there's a filmmaker like him, there's a studio like Warner Brothers, who's willing to, you know, take that extra step, regardless of how much money they get paid, just to give budding filmmakers a shot. So overall, I definitely applaud this effort. Ken, I was watching you watch this short. How'd you feel about it?
Don't stay in bed. Don't let, I get scared so easily. But in terms of the actual contest, hey, you know what? You're right. If the fine print was $50, that seems kind of crappy. But you know what? This is how careers are made. Sandberg started with the Lights Out a short, like you said. And then John Watts, he's directing Spider-Man. You know how he got his big break? He did a fake trailer of this clown movie, said produced by Eli Roth, somehow gets tweeted at Eli Roth. Then Eli Roth says, yeah, let's do it. Now John Watts is directing Spider-Man after a long career and as a commercial director and a lot of other things he did. So, yes, absolutely. This filmmaker is getting calls that we're not getting today. So take that $50, go to like a Del Taco, get 17 tacos, enjoy your day, and take these phone calls.
How you feeling about this one, Rocha?
Yeah, I think there's more currency in Hollywood than actual currency, right? It's about attention, celebrity, knowledge, people being aware of you. That matters more. You'll get paid. We just talked about Wonder Woman 2 at the top of the show, right? This idea that Patty Jenkins was toiling away for 10 years. Now she's getting paid. That's how it works. You know, this guy, yeah, he's only going to get $50. Like Ken said, go to Taco Bell. Hey, go get some big bites from 7-Eleven. Go enjoy your life and for a little bit. And because like if you got called from 3 managers, that means people want you. And if people want you, you can negotiate your own rate at that point and start building yourself to a point where you can direct this film full length and get paid for directing this film full length. And if it's successful, then you're there. So there's so many different ways to make it in this city. You just figure out a way, and there's so many different new ways that pop up all the time because of technology and stuff like this, contests that people all of a sudden, like those people that are building the R2D2 for they built the simulator. They're like, okay, great, Lucasfilm signed them. So you just never know what you're going to do. Follow your passion. You never know where it's going to lead, and it could lead to something like this for this guy. So I'm not crying any tears for his $50 if he's getting calls from managers who are, like Ken said, not calling us. So,
David, how do you feel about the nurse?
You can go to Applebee's $50. You can go a little step up from Del Taco. You can go to Applebee's $50, especially for their half-off appetizers. And
yes, sir.
You can tell where I go eat every night. No, so this is a great short. It's 2 minutes. It's freaky. It has like you said, Perry. Like it has to feel like it could exist within the Conjuring universe. I mean, like we have like the nun that they're working on. You see that in the Conjuring 2. That was freaky. I mean, the nurse, the makeup. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how much of a budget they had for this. I imagine it's very small, but that's a great thing. Rocha, you spent it perfectly. With technology nowadays, you don't have to have this big film camera, unless you're Tarantino or Nolan and you believe in all that. You can take an iPhone, a small digital camera. You don't need a ton of money and make a good product and put it out there that hopefully it'll go viral or somebody will tweet it to another director and they can watch it via Twitter, on Instagram or YouTube, whatever. So I'm so glad that there's all these avenues for young filmmakers to get noticed. So I'm so happy I'm definitely buying this short.
Well, and if you remember, Jon Favreau did that commercial for the iPhone 7 camera that is essentially a film camera.
Right.
So yeah.
All right. That is the end of Buy or Sell. I want to remind you guys that we are going to try to save some time at the end of the show for your live Twitter questions, so start sending them in now. Wendy will pick a couple good ones. Before we move on to Mailbag, I want to inform you of a couple really cool shows coming today. There's a lot, so again, write this down. So first, as you guys well know, Heroes and TV Talk are daily now, so keep an eye out for those. TV Talk actually goes live right after Movie Talk, so be sure to stick around and watch that. We also have a brand new Jedi Council that dropped yesterday. There's also a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 commentary up right now. I did it with Dennis, Wendy, and Thad. Check that out. We have a brand new episode of Comic Book Shopping. This one's with Robert Meyer Burnett, so if you're a Heroes fan, you should watch that, or if you just like good content, because that show is so well done. It amazes me every time I watch one. Oh my God, this is a good one. So we have a very special Schmodown coming your way later today. It is with Clark Wolf and Brienne, and they're paired with actresses from Glow. We're calling it the Movie Trivia Glowdown. Those ladies that came in are just something else. It is great movie trivia, as always, but these 4 ladies are just a delight. Kia, Jackie, Britt, and Brittany, they are wonderful. If you want to have some fun, make sure to check that out later today. And lastly, as always, we have a brand new episode of Awesome Tacular that goes up today. You can find a link to that in the description section of this episode of Movie Talk. I hope you got all that because it's all good stuff. Right now, though, we're moving on to your mailbag question. Sinead, what do we have today?
Tanner Wood writes, hey guys, I've been a big fan of the show since like 2012, back in the AMC days. My question is about Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. I'm crazy excited for it, but I'm worried about not being able to see it in the cinema. I love Netflix, and I'm so glad they're giving Marty the money to make his film, but they generally do not do theatrical runs. And when they do, like they did with Beasts of No Nation, it's only in limited release. I'm not in New York or LA, I'm in Texas, and in my opinion, a film like The Irishman, a Martin Scorsese film, a return to the mob genre, his first film with De Niro, Keitel, and Pesci in years, and his first film ever with Al Pacino, is a historic moment and should be seen in the cinema. So do you think there's a chance that Netflix does a wide release with The Irishman? Do you think that they should? Either way, thanks for taking my question.
So I have a feeling we're all really looking forward to this one. So the question is, do you think it should be seen in theaters, or does the Netflix model mean it has to just stay on Netflix? Rocha, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it should be seen in theaters. If they, I mean, they did a dry run for the Beasts of No Nation, so why not? And yes, I'm sorry you don't live in the bigger city, but you've got a car. I've driven 4 to 6 hours to see a movie when I lived in smaller towns back because I loved film. So get in your car and drive. It's a good way to listen to podcasts and get there and then watch the movie and come back. And it's an experience you can talk about. So that's my advice to this guy.
You're suggesting he gets on the 20? Connects to that 10 freeway?
Yeah, 10.
Texas
Drives
is
like,
huge.
like
Yeah,
3
well,
days?
if you ride the tip of Texas, it's not huge. But if you ride underneath Texas, it is huge.
John, you could ride the tip all day. Again, I've taken that 40 across. That's good. But look, we are in changing times in media, and I like the idea of seeing stuff like that. It seems like it should be in a theater, right? But this is where we're wondering where Netflix is changing the game. How much money is it benefit to them for it to just be on Netflix? Probably. Could Scorsese get this movie made elsewhere? Maybe not. I don't know. It's a weird time. In a couple years, someone on Netflix is not going to have this type of like weird questions. It's just going to be like, oh, that's what we do. Brad Pitt's movies are on Netflix now. Blah, 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 blah. Changing times. It's interesting. I'm sure, we'd like to see a lot of these movies in theaters. I don't think we will.
As much as I want to see movies on the big screen, I'm really thankful for the opportunities that Netflix gives filmmakers out there, because there's a lot of movies that have been made over the past couple of years that would never have been made had it not been for Netflix. And the difficult thing with Netflix's structure is that they want to respect what they are and release their original content on Netflix. And that means that some theater chains they don't want to have that movie in theaters when it's also available to stream at home. So that's just a deal that I think over time, the two sides are going to come to some sort of agreement where they can have the best of both worlds. Right now, it doesn't seem possible, but I also found this great breakdown on Vulture. I'm sure you can Google Vulture and Netflix and find it, but they had some great quotes from other filmmakers, from independent filmmakers, who were actually thankful that their movies didn't get shown in theaters, because when you have a movie that's shown in theaters, even Beasts of No Nations, I don't think that performed very well in theaters, and that automatically sparks some negativity about your movie. So by avoiding a theatrical release, some movies wind up getting more views and more life because you don't have that kind of negative word of mouth. People need to find it and explore it on Netflix, and then it just lives there. So I can kind of understand that mentality too, even though my preferred method of seeing movies is on the big screen. This is the future, and I am definitely ready to embrace it.
Yeah, I mean, Tanner, you can't. It sucks. I would rather see some of my favorite films of all time on the big screen. I mean, when I was a kid and I saw The Godfather for the first time, that blew me away, but I wasn't born in 72, so I couldn't see the big screen, and I saw it on one of those whatever boxy TV we used to have. Now the TVs are 65-inch, 4K. I mean, it's gorgeous. I mean, it's not as great, it's not as good to see it on the big screen, but it's better than it was when we were kids watching movies. Even the original Star Wars, it blew me away. Seeing on a 32-inch screen at home, I mean, you can still be blown away at home, but I do hear you. It would be nice, but maybe if it does well enough, maybe we'll get a limited run, like one of those Fathom events kind of things on AMC, and we'll get to see it. But
All right, so we got to wrap this up
Yep.
today and make way for TV Talk, but let's try to squeeze in one Twitter question. Wendy, do you have a good one?
I think so. This one's from Suburban Vet Dad, who writes, what about a villain for Obi-Wan, a Jedi who survived the Purge and blames Obi-Wan for the events that happened with Anakin?
Ooh,
That's
I want to,
great.
yeah. Do you want to take that first, Ken?
No, John. I want John to. I want
That's a great idea. I love this idea. You could even play with that's the origin of the Grey Jedi. Like there's so much to play with that possibility, or one of the people that creates this idea of the Grey Jedi. So there's so much to play with there. And who else is going to know how to fight a Jedi than a Jedi? And if he's a former Jedi Master, even more so.
I'm digging that idea. I wonder if there's some sort of story canon point that means it's not possible, but I really like the thought of having an Obi-Wan movie without a traditional villain, with someone that's fighting for something that might be just rather than, pure evil. So I'm kind of open to that. Do you want to go last, Ken?
I just will say I think this is a main event battle. This needs to be Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, that type of thing. Otherwise, it's a novel.
Okay.
This is WrestleMania. This is Macho versus Hogan over the course of a generation of their career. I think this needs to be big. You can't get too cute. Not that this is cute, but you can't get too small or niche with it. Otherwise, it's a comic or novel.
Yeah,
It has
and
to be the main
I was
event.
going to say, so we already had the Darth Maul Obi-Wan story, and that's kind of, I mean, I know Darth Maul may be the embodiment of something that's evil,
a
but I
Sith.
feel,
Yeah, right.
I don't feel like
They
I feel like
also
we've-
don't see each other until that moment in Rebels.
Right, of
they
course,
haven't
yeah.
seen each other since.
So I think if we do it again, another one, it just feels too similar. But I think, yeah, you have to go with Darth Vader if you're going to do a story.
Well, I think if you make it a trilogy, Vader works because then you lead up to that fight.
Yeah.
But if you do this because you look at the Batman with Nolan, right? There's Batman. The first Batman Begins. There's not really a big main, but yeah, it's Ra's al Ghul, but he's not really that well known. So you bring in the Joker for the second one. That's The Empire Strikes Back, and then the third one is what it is, what you feel. But if you do this with the Jedi, I think it works also because what we're doing now in our media is questioning everything, and especially in Star Wars, you're questioning the Jedi. Remember when we first encountered the Jedi, we were like, these are good, they are bad. Now it's like, well, we've got into the machinations and the complexities of the Jedis and figured out like, well, no, maybe they weren't all good. Maybe they didn't all have the right ideas on. Some people even side with Anakin in the prequels. I've seen that. I've seen those arguments.
It's one of Lucas's intentions in the prequels is to take big institutions and question them.
Yeah.
Wow, I wish this came up when we were talking about it up top. I'm really curious to hear more about this now. Thank you for the great Twitter question, and thank all of you for watching Movie Talk today and all week. Also, before we close out the show, I want to thank everyone in the back. We have Adam, Cody, and Dennis. As always, you guys rock. Thank you for all your help. And everybody at the main table today. D. Griff, where can everyone find you?
When I'm not watching Defenders this weekend on Netflix, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at GriffinDE, as well as on Collider TV Talk. I'll be on Monday's show talking about the Defenders.
And Rocha.
Yeah, you guys can always see me or find me at the Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. Just dropped a new episode of Outlaw Nation yesterday in the SK Plus podcast channel, and on the Cinephiles this morning, we just dropped In the Heat of the Night. In light of the Charlottesville stuff going on, I think it was pretty much good timing for us to bring that film out for you all to listen to.
And Ken.
Hey, you can follow me at Ken Napzok. If you're a fan of the friend of the show, Alicia Malone, her book, Backwards and in Heels, the look at the past, present, future of women in film, is out. And I had a chance to sit down with her on 2 shows this week on my podcast, The Napzok Files. You can find it out there. Wendy, apologize. Your letter opener somehow ended up on my desk.
How
I
did
think
that get
Harloff
there?
did it. I'll return it to you.
I was wondering why you were holding that. Sinead, if that didn't scare you off, where can everyone find you on the internet?
I'm online at Sinead DeVries and at that'sofsinead.com. I'll be on TV Talk in just a few minutes and then back next week for Movie Talk.
Wendy, where can everyone find you and your box cutter?
Well, apparently you can find the box cutter at Ken's office. You can find me on YouTube at the Movie Couple channel, at Wendy Lee Zaney on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat.
And you guys can catch me on Twitter and Instagram at Perri Nemiroff. Keep an eye out for Collider behind the scenes and bloopers coming your way tomorrow. It is all about the Schmodown Collision. It's a lot of fun. Again, thank you guys for supporting the show. We will see you Monday with a brand new Movie Talk.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.